What's up, guys? It's been a long time. I was in Toronto for 6 months. I'm here in Los Angeles, finishing working on my big Amazon television show. Oh yeah, and one more thing. I'm sitting in this RV that Becca and I purchased. That's a story for another time. Right now, I want to talk to you guys about DSLR quality photos with your iPhone. I'm going to talk about the app Focos. That's F-O-C-O-S. Focos. I did a video about it a year ago and it blew up, but the app has changed a lot in the last year, and I mean a lot. It's gotten a whole bunch better. So if you want to learn how to do really awesome DSLR quality photos on your iPhone, stay tuned. This is the #1 question I get about this app more than anything in my videos. I'm gonna know you didn't watch the video if you ask me this in the comment section. It is only good on all of the iPhones that work with the 2 cameras. I'm not even sure if, I think it works on the 8 as well. It does not work on the 6. Also, it is not an Android app. Yes, there are amazing things that Android phones can do. The Galaxy is a great phone. I don't have one, so I can't really test it and do a comparison, but this is not an Android video. This is an iPhone X and above video. Let's get into it. Focos is an app that you can download for free and you get limited functionality for free. They have 2 kind of business models. You can pay a monthly subscription, which I think is like a couple bucks a month, or you can just buy all of it, every feature. You can unlock every feature for I think about 13 bucks, and that's what I did. And 13 bucks is a pretty good deal. And since I last reviewed this product, they've also come out with an iPad version that you don't have to buy for any extra money. So if you buy the iPhone version, the iPad version works as well, which is great. I'm going to show you guys, briefly show you guys that iPad version at the end of this video. But right now, we're just going to get into it and we're going to go into the new Focos app. And here it is. They've changed the icon to white, which I guess is a little bit more sleek. You've got your standard sort of camera setup, and you've got this library of all your photos, which is great because it syncs all of your Focos photos into its own library. It syncs on your cloud, so you can open it up on the iPad or on your iPhone. I've got all of my Focos shots that I've done going all the way back like a year now on this phone. You can see my cat Snake there looking really, really cute. I'm going to scroll back to when I worked on the show Timeless. Here we go. So instantly hardcore DSLR people say that this is not going to compete with a DSLR. It's nowhere near professional quality. You can't use it for professional purposes. Yes, I'm going to agree with you. This $13 app is not as good as a $2,000, $3,000, even $600 or $400 camera, nor should it be. I'd be very worried for DSLR cameras if this app was as good as those cameras, because no one would be buying DSLR cameras anymore. That being said, you can absolutely use this camera for professional purposes. The photo that I'm showing you guys right now was from the last day that we shot season 2 of Timeless, before this Christmas special that just came out. I didn't have anything to do with that Christmas special. And I just took a snap of our 2 lead actors, and I gave this photo to Abby, who's the female lead in the show, Abigail Spencer. She loved the photo, and she, I guess, gave it to the media as a promo thing, because there was actually nobody there that day to take promotional pictures of them looking like this in this look that they have right here. So she gave this to the media, and this became a pretty popular press image that was used for promoting this Christmas special and for just a lot of articles. So I've seen this photo out there like all over the internet used professionally. So in this case, having this app, it was just super handy to have it there, and it just worked really great. So I'm gonna use this image to just take you guys through the new features. They've definitely streamlined a lot of stuff. The first thing is if you hit this back arrow, it's just gonna take you back to the gallery, but I'm gonna hit it one more time to go back into the image. We have the amount of blur. That's your main slider where it says size down below. So I'm gonna crank it up kind of extreme. And then you've got your shape. And this we had before. You've got all these different shakes and you unlock a bunch of fun ones. So if you want to make your blades like a triangular blade, this highlights thing, you can just raise or lower the brightness of the highlights. Vivid is kind of the amount of saturation. Then you can actually rotate them, which is kind of crazy. So I can rotate the shapes if I want to, get like an angle on it, which is kind of cool. You can make them narrow, you can make them skinny or not skinny. And what that's actually good for, if you get something skinny like this using narrow, that actually emulates like an anamorphic camera, because an anamorphic camera shoots more of an oval for its bokeh than a circle. Notch is interesting too. It kind of eats into it, so I can have the default shape, or I can break the shape up a little bit. Matte box kind of crops in. I don't think I'd ever really use that. I'm not sure. I guess it did make a more interesting shape in the background, but it's there. LED is interesting and new. You can make it say like the background lights are actually a bunch of little dots, and I can sort of scale up these little dots, and it gives it a little bit more of a breakup texture. These are your basic features right here, but now we can actually hit this new button down here that has a bunch of lens presets. And this is great. And it comes with a bunch of lens presets. So I can do lights et noir or the Olympus Zyko, and you can see it's just changing everything. And I've created my own. SSF1 is my own preset. Or you can go into custom and you get a bunch more features. And these are a lot of the features from before. Creaminess kind of punches a hole in the middle a little bit. Softness does exactly what you think. It softens the edges. Bilinear, this is the one that crops in. Reflex kind of makes a donut hole in the center. And you can see now, if I zoom in here, you can see this little guy right in here is starting to look like LED lights. We're getting a very interesting look in the background. Corrosion, you can like eat into them. Swirly, it swirls the whole thing, which is very interesting to the background. You can just keep messing with these things and get just tons of different looks. RGB shift is interesting because you can do chromatic aberration. So I can actually add some nice imperfections to those lights in the background that I really like. And then rainbow, you can actually add color now to the backgrounds and you can really start getting some color looks. If you hold down on the image and long press, it does a toggle before and after. So that's the before and that's the after. If you just tap on a different area in the image, you choose your focus. So I could blur them in the foreground, not that I'd want to, or I can go and blur the background by clicking on one of them. In fact, there's a little bit of a difference between the two of them, so I'm going to click on her and make sure she's nice and in focus. They've given you the ability now to create these lens presets, which is amazing and great. You can save them, you can delete them, you can manage them. They've given us another amazing tool, which is a lighting tool. So if you hit lighting, all of a sudden we go into this 3D view, and again, we can see the depth of our image. You can pinch zoom around. If you pinch zoom all the way, it takes you back into 2D. You can zoom to snap out, and I can hit new light. And we have all these different light options. And I would be very careful with these. A little bit goes a long way, but let's just try adding a softbox. And we can see there's actually a 3D softbox in our scene, which is crazy. And we can position it in 3D space. So I'm actually gonna rotate to the side and I'm gonna try and get it, I'm gonna go all the way to the side. And I'm gonna point this all behind them at the background. And you can kind of see in 2D space too, you get a view of it. If you pinch zoom all the way into 2D, it gives you like this different icon for it. But you can see that I'm lighting the background and I can go pretty extreme with this now. You gotta be careful. If you do too much of this, you're going to see the edges on people, but a little bit of lighting and more than just the light, I can go in and I can start changing the color to add just a little bit of, say, a purple or green cast to the background. Just to show you guys some other things you can do with the lights, I can go to range, and range is sort of the width of the light. Shadow is how much of a shadow it casts. You're not going to see much here because I'm on the background. And diffuse is how soft the edges are. If I go back to new light, I can add another new light. I'm going to add a, let's try a fluorescent tube. And this one I'm going to keep in the foreground on Abigail Spencer. And I'm going to go and I'm going to pinch zoom into the side here and just sort of angle it and drag it right by the side of her face right there. We're going to zoom back out and I am going to tap on it to select it. And by the way, you can also hit this button to toggle between 2D and 3D instead of pinch zooming. I'm going to change the color. We're going to maybe warm her up just a little bit here. You can see I've warmed them up. And again, you can go too far with it very quickly, or you can go negative, which looks really weird. You get some compression. I'm going to go a little bit warmer. And the range is how far the light casts. So if I don't want it to hit the background, that's what the range does. It's not a softening thing. It's a distance of light thing. So if I want to contain it to just her, I reduce the range. If I want to hit the background a little bit with it, I increase the range. So I'm going to try and not do the background. And then shadow is just sort of like how much of a contrasty shadow thing it casts. You can see that it's actually casting, if I raise this up and move it around, you can see that it's casting these shadows from her arm and onto his body, right? Which is really cool. So you get this subtle shadowing effect, which adds some realism. And then diffuse is how soft you want it to be. It's going to affect sort of everything, the light, the hardness of the light. Sunlight is kind of a universal adjustment. So sunlight is just how bright the sun is in the whole image. Adjust all lets you raise and lower the brightness of every light you've put in at one time. So I can notch this down just a little bit. I'm going to hold down again and you can see I've done a pretty good job of relighting this. So that's a whole new thing in Focus, lighting, which is just really cool. And then we still have the effects palette, and they've refined the effects palette a little bit. So if you go into the effects palette, you can actually see lighting is treated as an effect, and it instantly takes you to this side view. And I can choose, I can just scroll my bokeh and say, you know what, I really only want my bokeh to affect these two areas right here, the background, and I really want to get it off of them. Like, I don't want her hand to be affected by the bokeh. So I can drag that up, I can hit apply, and now you can see that her hand is in focus, whereas before it was out of focus. Let me go back and show you guys one more time. I'm gonna bring this back in now, and I'm gonna try and actually get her hand and her arm, just avoid her face. And now you can see that her hand and the gun are out of focus. So look at that, before, after, before, after. I mean, that is a very different image. There's more effects, of course. If you hit this plus, you get a lot of different options that you can adjust based on depth. Let's do motion blur. I'm gonna make sure that the far and the near are unlocked, but I don't want the motion blur to affect the whole thing. So what I'm gonna do, again, is I am going to get it off of them and just put it in the background. And I'm gonna hit apply, and there you go. So I'm adding this kind of cool motion blur effect just to the background. It's just, yet again, it's another cool look. I can keep going. I could change motion blur, by the way, to, right now it's at radial, but you could do spin, which is a cool effect, or you can do actual motion, and you can change the angle of the motion. So I'm not gonna go through every single effect here, but you can go through all of them. You could make the background black and white, you could change the color temperature, you can adjust the highlights and shadows, all those things you can do in like a normal picture editor, like a Visco or a Lightroom on the phone. You can do a lot of that stuff here, but you can select where you do it in depth based on this whole effects palette. There's one last area that they've created, it's this patch area, where supposedly you can go and you can see this green mask for space, and you can fix things based on space. So you can see that like it doesn't have its full cheek here, and that's kind of an error. So supposedly I can take this brush and I'm gonna soften it a little bit, and I can paint in my mask on his brush. The problem I found is that this just doesn't work very well. Frankly speaking, not a huge fan, so I'm gonna undo that. I'll show you on the iPad. They actually suggest using it on the iPad with the Apple Pencil, but again, I've just found this not to work very well. One last thing that I found that I discovered that I really like is in the settings, they have this mode here called continual capture mode. And what that means is if you turn this off, it used to be that if you took a photo, I'll take a photo right now of me. If you take a photo like this, you go into editing the photo right away. And this is kind of great, but the problem is, what if you want to take multiple photos and deal with the editing later? If you hit back and hit retake, it deletes it. You have to hit save, and then you have to wait while it's processing the image, and then you can go back and take another photo. And that's kind of a pain in the butt. What I found is that if you turn on continuous capture mode, if I take a picture of my camera, it just lets me keep going. It saves it and it lets me deal with the processing later. And I can open that image and I can focus on my camera, focus on me, focus on the background. I can do all my adjustments after the fact. So I really like turning on that continuous capture mode setting. Also, you can change your sizes. Right now I have it to 2160, 2880, but I could very well make it 3024 by 4032. I can switch it to TIFF in 3024 by 4032. It's gonna take more time to save each image, but they're gonna be much higher quality. Those are all the new features in Focus. Now, I promised you guys a bonus thing. Let me just stop. This is the iPad version of Focus that has come out since my first video. And this is a very, very nice interface. If the iPhone's a little bit too small for you, if you really want to go get in there and fine tune some stuff, this might be the thing for you. So you can do all the same stuff. I can tap on the background, I can tap on the foreground to make it in and out of focus. It is compatible with the Apple Pencil, which is very nice. And you get all the same menu features, but you get them laid out very nicely. You can do all of the same stuff right here. I can pick different aperture. I can pick my lenses. So here's all my custom lens settings. So I can go to Helios, for example, and soften it up, make it creamy. Then the one thing that still doesn't work for me though is the depth thing. It said in the app that it's better on the iPad and you can draw and fix depth with the Apple Pencil. Maybe I'm just doing this wrong, but I go and I find, like, let's say the lens, and I really want to fill in the rest of that area. Whatever I do when I start drawing, look, it starts changing the background. Like, I really have no idea what's going on. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's just kind of like it's wrong. That is it for right now. Focus is still, in my opinion, one of the best apps for the iPhone if you're into photography. It's well worth the money. Is it as good as a DSLR? No. Does it make some really cool images with some really cool, like, shallow depth of field looking things? Absolutely. If you pair it up with a program like VSCO or Lightroom CC on your phone and get some cool filmic looks to it, you can make some stuff that looks really, really, really good. That's it. If you like this video, feel free to hit that subscribe button. I just want you guys to go out there and create stuff. So if you like that, go ahead and give me a sub. I'll be back with more cool videos in the future talking about all kinds of cool creative tech stuff. All right, guys. See you later.